Uh,
So you've been playing a lot or what?
absolutely none.
Nothing.
Absolutely zero. Yeah.
Really?
No. We're live on Facebook, so I'll get into
All
that
right.
question in a second. But
Okay.
here's a person that I don't even need to introduce, other than to say, this is the best boss you could have, my good buddy, all the way from Liverpool, England, Mike Score.
Hey, how's everyone doing? Kevy?
I'm glad to see you, buddy. You
Yeah,
like I told people that I expected to have the whole hair growing back through quarantine for you, but that didn't happen.
it's upstairs growing.
Okay.
It's
Did you did,
lots.
did did you have a quarantine beard for a
It's
while?
growing down here. Yeah.
Did you have
Actually,
did you
I grew a goatee for a while, for about 2 weeks, and then I just kind of went, you know what? It just feels weird to me,
yeah,
so shaved it off.
you've been
You
without
know,
facial hair for a long time.
yeah, yeah.
But
I just I can't stand chewing the little hair as they
uh
come.
Cena,
So
Cena probably doesn't like that either. So
no, she liked it. She wanted me to keep it, and I'm just like, it's got to go. I had it 2 weeks. I
yeah,
gave it a go, and then I was like, no,
yeah.
not for me. So
That's like a pair of shoes for you. 2 weeks
yeah,
off to the next.
then the next one.
No.
That's the thing I really miss is shoe shopping.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
are they opening things up in Liverpool a little bit where you can go out and
Um, I guess they will be this week, but I can't go out anyway because being diabetic is like put you on the other edge of being what's the word
at risk?
at risk. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I just stay in. I haven't left the house since I got here, apart from be out in the garden and stuff like that.
So that's a couple
So it's
months.
okay. I bought some stuff for my studio and started messing about with new songs, and I've been quite happy to stay in bed, be in the studio. It's what I would do at
Yeah.
home anyway.
Right.
So it,
I've
just I miss the gigs though.
oh my God, man. Well, yeah, this sort of quarantine space, the pandemic is a homebody's like it's a homebody's dream. I've been talking to a few
Yeah,
people about that. But the gigs, it's been 3 months since we've been on stage, that
long,
I
lot of gigs gone. Yeah,
yeah, that
and I don't
Microsoft.
think, yeah, I don't think there'll be any gigs for a few months. I
Yeah.
just can't see it.
I stopped speculating. I'm sure people ask you all the time. I was one that was asking you for a little while, hey, is there a reschedule
Mm.
on this other date? And it I started realizing that every musician was out there kind of dealing with the same thing, all these
Mm.
venues, because the venues are going to have to figure out a way that if they can survive it, how they can
Yeah,
still put
exactly.
marketing dollars in. The our band doesn't really seem to lend itself well to like the garage band concert, they
No.
can, but you could sit out with an acoustic guitar and Liverpool One and, put a cup out. Can't you call Liverpool One and say, hey, look, Mike Score needs his shoes. Can you just shut this down for an hour and let me go shoe shopping?
Shut down the pandemic for a couple hours and let me.
That's right. Open the
No,
doors.
actually, this couple of months, whatever, it's been 3 months. To me, it's gone really quickly. I'm all of a sudden looking, going, wow, it's May already. And then yeah, gigs get rescheduled and then rescheduled on the reschedule, and now most of them I'm just moving it to next year. So I'm expecting at least another 6 or 8 months with nothing.
Yeah.
So it's kind of sad.
Yeah.
It just gives me the chance to rest and come back stronger
Yeah.
and write new songs. Whereas before, I'd get back from doing a few gigs, I'd have a few days doing nothing, start to write a couple of songs, and then have to be off doing gigs again. But now I can spend a week just working on an idea, a couple hours a day or all day or whatever. And I'm also doing some stuff for Cleopatra Records.
Really?
They sent me some stuff if I wanted to do it. So I've been messing about with that. So to me, it's gone quickly. It's busy,
Yeah.
just not gigs. I miss the gigs. Just hanging out with the boys.
Man, we miss you too, buddy. We do. That I think I think the few days after the Microsoft Theater show on Valentine's Day weekend, you stuck around LA for a little bit to do some recording, right?
Yeah.
So did
Yeah.
you get some good basic tracks done for those new
Oh,
songs?
I got a couple of songs nearly finished.
Hmm.
Then I had to come to England. And of course, by the time I got to England, actually, by the time I got on the plane to come to England, at any second that flight could have been canceled,
Wow.
because it was kind of like, get on the plane and we'll find out if we're going to take off. And then it took off, and they're still like, you know, we could get turned around and sent back at any moment. And then to me, it was like, then I'd be in LA, and my house is in Florida. How am I going to get to Florida, you know, when everything's closed down? And I mean, would gas stations be open? Would anything be open? So luckily, I managed to, you know, get on the plane and go. So it wasn't too bad. And I'm glad to be in England, actually, because I don't spend too much time here. And as you know, I got, you know, my new house. So it gives me a chance to do things in the house and be in England, which for a couple of months, which is great. Love it.
Yeah. Well, it's getting to be the nice time too, right? Your weather's probably clearing up a little bit.
It's the days are sometimes really nice and sunny. It's like a spring day in Florida, but it's high summer in England.
Right. That's
so it's nice.
Perfect weather. I can't stand summer in Florida, buddy. I know how you love it, but to me,
I don't.
You've got a cool setup. I was looking at your studio behind you, and I hadn't seen in the new place this setup. But well, are those speakers or sound baffling you have in the corner back there?
They're baffles up on the ceilings.
Yeah.
They're baffles. I'm gonna put some more in once I'm gonna have the place measured, but I put those up because I know it needed them. My studio is, you know, it's pretty nice.
Oh yeah, nice. Well, you got plenty of lights in there. Oh, looks like a video game center. This is great.
Yeah, it's you know, it's well workable, put it that way. You know, I can get a lot done in here, or I can sit here and watch TV, or I can. It's my cave.
Your man cave.
Like the old-fashioned man cave. Yeah,
the mic cave.
Yeah.
You know, you've got the drum kit back behind you. I see. I'm already losing my gig soon. But is that a sitar on the wall back there?
Yeah.
You play?
It was so weird. I was in Liverpool. I walked into this little music shop, and the guy had this sitar out on the table, right? And he apparently just bought it. And he said to me, "Do you know anything about this?" And I went, "Well, I know it's a sitar." And he said, "Oh, well, do you know anything about them?" I went, "No, I know it looks good. So how much do you want for it?" So he gave me a price. I went, "Oh, I'll take it." And I thought it'll either make a great ornament, or I'll, you know, mess around with it and get some sounds out of it. So the first thing I did was stick it up on the wall, and that's where it's been ever since.
It's a talking piece. That's a good.
Yeah,
it looks good.
It's nice and what's the word, eclectic kind of thing. You know?
Yeah,
it's gives a bit of a vibe to the place.
And you've got your sturdy guitar there. You most people that hadn't seen the band for a long time might not realize that you're quite a guitar player too. I mean, you play a guitar on a chunk of the set when we have a longer set. Do you find yourself writing on guitar a lot?
Oh yeah, quite a lot. I like messing about with guitar. I do play guitar, but I don't think I play guitar, I put it in like a standard way, you know, because I never learned scales and chords. I just put my hand on it, and if it makes a nice sound, I go, I like that.
Yeah.
And then it's up to a guitarist to go, "Oh, that's a G minor 8 over 9," you know. And I go, "How clever am I?" But yeah, if I'm given time, I can play guitar quite well, but not just. I forget what I do on guitar. I don't really forget on keyboards what I do for some reason, but on guitar, it's when I look at a guitar neck, I kind of go, okay, what's where's is that a G or is that an A? You know, so I just make shapes, and so I forget them. I forget where to put them and where the shapes are and what the sounds do. On a keyboard, it's kind of laid out nicely in front of you. But on a guitar, you're kind of looking at it upside down, you know. So I find nice things by mistake, if you want, on a guitar. And then people go, "That was great. What was it?" And I go, "Yeah, what was it? What was that?"
Do you have guitarists that influence you that way?
The only guitarist that I would think influenced me at all would be David Gilmour.
Oh, right.
You know, because he plays just. He can play fast, he can play slow, but when he plays slow, it's heartbreaking. Yeah. And that's what I prefer. I much prefer that one note that'll tear you in two than that, you know, because that's nothing for me at all. The right
tonality.
note in the right place will give you the right emotion. So
Love it.
Gilmore, king of that. So,
That's so good, man. I guess
but then
historically,
there's Gordy.
yeah. You have well, we'll get to Gordy. That's all
Yeah.
good. I did have a great conversation with him on the phone, and then talked to Ed Sousa the other day, and Gord
Uh-huh.
jumped on that phone call for a little bit, and we watched a little clip from playing the that little lounge area that Ed put together for the charity Operation
Yeah.
Smile thing, and we talked about the significance of that because we had just done Casino Rama the night before, like 5,000 seater. We just done a bunch of these other gigs, the huge gigs this summer, in Quebec City, and
Yeah.
the massive, like people as far as you can see. But that night, with the intimacy that happened with that gig, where you could see every person's face in the crowd and interact with them, talk and do the Q&A and have them sort of feel like they were part of your living room, was really
Yeah.
cool. And then you had this participation with Operation Smile, which I thought was a cool charity to be involved with. What was it about that significance for you that was special?
I saw a TV show about it, and most charities, people want to do the big one. Oh, support cancer. I'm going to support, whatever it is, leukemia, all that stuff. But then you've got these little cases like Smile, where a kid is born with a cleft lip or cleft palate, whatever it is, and they can fix that in an hour, right? But
Right.
a lot of people don't seem to care. They just kind of go, well, it's not worth giving to that. Let's give to cancer. Let's give to the big ones. And I saw this show, and it was just about these doctors who gave their time free, and they went to like Africa or South America, and for a week, I think it was, they fixed up, I don't know, a couple of thousand kids, and those kids would now have a proper life because they weren't considered to be out of society or whatever it was that happens to them down there. And they fixed these kids for free. And I just thought, that's a great thing. It's immediate. That kid gets immediate relief for a lifetime.
Yeah.
And with stuff like cancer and all that, it's all supported by governments as well. So they get a lot of support. Whereas these little small charities that are more immediate, they probably don't get.
Right.
And although I don't know how much, Smile gets, I just thought for me, it's a worthwhile thing because it's immediate.
Yeah.
Those kids get immediate relief from their life problems,
That's
and parents get immediate relief from it because. So I just thought, yeah, okay, it costs, I don't know what, $100 to fix a kid's mouth up for the rest of his life, whereas to fix cancer is going to cost 100 billion.
right.
Therefore, I wanted to go with the small one.
Yeah. Well, you're affecting a lot of people's lives
Well, I hope so. And
Yeah.
if we play as a band and we give to it, I hope that in the future at some point they find out what it is, what that defect is, and they can fix that.
Yeah.
And
That's
on
great.
we are.
I love it. I mean, those kinds of opportunities are special. It's great that Ed put that together. And I think the more that we can kind of unify and do that stuff in the future, it's fulfilling, right? It makes you
Yeah,
feel a little bit better about the gig.
I like
Self-serving.
it. We've given some money to help doctors go and help
Yeah,
kids.
you bet.
So, yeah.
Man, any gigs stand out to you this last year? Really special ones for you one thing I'm trying not to do, Mike, is in my day, and the reason I started doing these conversations was that I wanted to give myself a little bit of a focus and purpose in a schedule, because I don't want to sleep my day away. I don't want to think about what I can't control out there in the pandemic and what gigs are canceled. I just wanted to be able to catch up with my buddies. So, but I have looked back and reflected on the things that were really special to me this last year. I'm wondering if you're using some time for reflection with yourself, with gigs or otherwise.
I've never been one to look backwards.
Okay.
To me, guys that I've had in the band, they recorded shows and then they've watched them and listened to them. And to me, I just go, you know what, that gig's gone.
Yeah.
Whatever you're watching now is to me doesn't mean a thing. It's done, it's gone. It was a great time. I want to look forward. I mean, I do have gigs that I've done in the past that, like Hollywood Bowl, where being a big Beatles fan, I walked out into the Hollywood Bowl and I stood there and I went, wow, this is exactly where Paul McCartney probably stood. And then I walked over to where John Lennon stood, you know, and stuff like that. And obviously doing like the Microsoft, you know,
Yeah.
incredible gigs, great crowds, just great fun to do those. And the band always seems to lift. You know, when we get big gigs, we lift to them.
Yeah.
You know, it reminds me of like a footballer playing in a final
Right.
rather than just, you know, it lifts his game up kind of thing. And
Good analogy.
you have to prove that you're worthy of being on that stage,
Right.
you know. So when you walk out somewhere like that, where you know all your heroes have stood or great bands have been before, you don't want to fall down and go, oh, we weren't good enough, you know, really.
Yeah.
So the ones I think of, yeah, the Hollywood Bowl, Microsoft's a great one. I can't even think of the names, but what's the big Madison Square Garden,
Yeah.
you know, stuff like that. It's it
Iconic.
does come as memories of like, I can't go around saying the band was a failure because no band that's been on those stages has been a failure.
Right.
So for me, that's kind of like, okay, that proves we're standing on the right ground. Now we need to move forward and stand on other ground, you know,
Sure.
and people want us to be back at those places.
I love that we have those in the future. You know,
Mm.
the Greek theater to me this summer was like the pinnacle. You know, I was
Yeah.
excited. Well, you know, I mean, you talk about some of these major stages without really having to look back. Questions that I've gotten from a bunch of people. Um, uh, my pal Jim Jelvig over in the UK, you met him in Wolverhampton. My friend's the teacher.
Yeah.
He wanted to know, like, what was your adrenaline like when you guys were walking on stage at the US Festival in '83?
Um, as far as I remember, the US Festival, we flew in from Paris where we played the night before. Went to the hotel. Then we helicoptered out to the actual US Festival. And I did about 6 hours of interviews. So I was just wiped out completely.
Day of show.
Day of show.
Wow.
The last person I spoke to before going on stage, as far as I remember, was Eddie Van Halen.
Wow.
And I spoke to him for a little bit, and they were saying the stage isn't ready, it's not ready. Now you go, you know. And I remember walking out onto that stage, and the only thing that hit me was how big the stage was.
Right.
You know, I looked back, and my brother was this big. You know what I mean? He was
yeah.
tiny, absolutely tiny in the background. I looked over to where Paul was, and he was that big, you know. And then I looked at Frank, and he was that big. But but that was the main thing for me. It was like, how am I gonna play with my band when they're all so far away?
Right.
You know, because monitors only give you so much. We were used to playing quite big places, but that stage was absolutely wickedly enormous, you know.
Yeah.
And then I remember we played and looking at the crowd, and I think the nearest person was 50 yards away.
God.
So it was almost like playing in a void, but there was a huge crowd. If you looked up, you could see them going up the side of the hill and everything like that. And then it was over.
Wow.
You know, just like great gigs are. You walk on, next thing you know, you're walking off going, wow, that was great. What happened?
I have a little bit of that happen in the background here. There's no audio, but this is what there's a clip that's out there that you guys, it shows you behind the trussing, kind of just getting ready to go on. And I remember you kind of like come running around the side of the scaffolding, running right on stage, like you're just like full of energy, man. You guys are ready to kill this thing, you know. But,
yeah.
When you watch back on this, can you remember the sort of adrenaline pumping?
No, I wouldn't say it was adrenaline. It was just to us, we were glad to be there, and it was another day, another gig, another. Let's make some fans. Let's impress. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And see, looking at that, the stage doesn't look so big, but when you walked on, your perspective was totally different. You know?
Yeah. Well, if we can show like the crowd, maybe it should. Like if we can see the crowd here in the background. Yeah, as far as you can see, that stage is big enough to. I think they had close to 1 million people there, right? Weren't there like 800,000 or something like that? Or
I'm not sure. I think they said there was like 200,000 people watching the stage at any one time.
Okay.
So there were people all
There-
around the
yeah,
place.
that's a pretty big size stage right there, buddy. That's a good one. Yeah,
Mm,
that's good stuff. I when we did Quebec City this year with Corey Hart and Glass Tiger on July 5th. I
yeah.
remember that
Not
that
a-
that was
that was a
amazing.
great show.
We had just played Toronto, that Budweiser Stage 2, which was just fascinating. It was fantastic. Sound was
Yeah.
perfect. But then when we got to Quebec City, that gig, everything about it, the presentation, rolling into the walls, the gates, right? Because we're within that huge courtyard of the castle at the top of the hill,
Yeah.
and just the production was great, the crew was great, and we're on with a great bill. Man, Level 42 was on that
Yeah.
gig.
My
Yeah,
buddy.
yeah, Mark
Yeah.
King, man. And to me, that was probably the highlight of my musical career with you guys too. Just we were feeling so good, man. I remember there was a lot of like interpersonal stuff that was going on, and for me, that's what makes a gig great for me. I love it when you can tell that the crowd's into it, but when I got you guys turning it around, coming to me, and we're eye to eye, and we're kind of like feeding off each other, that gives me the goosebumps, man. Not when
Well,
Ponda looks at me.
that's the thing about being in a band, isn't it?
Yeah,
If you're in the band and the band is into itself,
yeah,
it's going to go out to the crowd, and that is going to bring the crowd in because you're giving out a vibe of you're creating something special. You know what I mean?
yeah,
I have had times in the band where the people in the band weren't exactly who I wanted, or there's moments when people are leaving the band and it's just not quite right, and you lose a bit of that. But there's moments in the life of a band where everything clicks. They're all your buddies. Everyone's playing it right. Everyone understands what the other guy's doing. Everyone's on song, and when all our wavelengths are all together. And when you do that, that's the one that gives you the big shiver, and you just go, this band could go anywhere. Could go up as high as they go.
You feel
So
invincible.
yeah. And that is when we used to rehearse in the late 70s and 80s. That was the feeling we got. We would rehearse for so long, like from like 11 at night till 7 in the morning.
Wow.
Every night, because that's how it felt when we were playing together,
Wow.
And I think that's part of the reason we made it, is because we had such a inward looking vibe for the band, that there was nothing like us and no one could do what we could do the way we did it. And I think when we went out and tried to get a deal, that's what they saw. They were like, we don't know anything about this band, but look at them. They're like, and that's what you get when you all hit it right,
Yeah.
So
Was there an
and those big shows, Toronto, and that's what we were hitting. We were hitting the pinnacle of what a band should be.
Right. You had some massive tours going on then, right? I know about the tours with like the Police early on in the day. What were some other ones that stood out to you that were special?
Well, obviously, the Police was great. Touring with there were other tours that were special for different reasons. I mean, one of the first tours we did was with the Go-Go's when they were in the top 10 albums. And to us that was, well, to me, I don't know about the other guys mainly, but to me that was like a learning process. Because here was this girl band that were huge and playing 30,000-40,000 size stadiums, and not my kind of music at all. But you have to learn that, not everybody likes that all the time. They like a bit of this and a bit of that and a bit. So you kind of learn to understand where they're coming from. We had a lot of fun on that tour. The girls were great. Other tours like Psychedelic Furs, who knows what those guys were into. They weren't that friendly. But then again, they had their own thing and people liked that. And then, we talk to people, they go, well, I love the Furs, didn't like you guys. And then we play and they go, oh, you guys are great too. Yeah. So you learn that, every kind of band and every kind of music is acceptable. And it's not like you must be crap because you're heavy metal. You can be a great heavy metal band, a great country band, a great new wave band, or just one guy standing playing guitar, and you can be great. Yeah. We learned a lot of that from those tours. And we also learned to deal with the backstage when you play small gigs, you know, it's about having a beer and being with your buddies. When you play big gigs, there's a lot of people around that will A, put you down for no reason, B, pick you up for no reason, you know, be yes man and try and be your friends for nothing. But you learn to deal with all that. And the bigger the tour, you tend to find that the bands that are on the bigger tours are friendlier. I guess it's because they've already made it.
Right.
And the bands on the smaller tours, we're all fighting for position, so they're not as friendly, you know.
Sure.
Same as like now we go on stage with any band from the 80s or anything, and they're all our buddies.
Yeah. It's like a family
We all
reunion.
made it in the 80s, you know, and
Yeah.
we don't have to go, I don't like them, I don't do this. And now it's all, hey, get on there and do your best, you know, you do your thing and
Do your best.
do your best, with your best, do your thing, do your best, do whatever.
Yeah.
And then we'll go on and do our best and do our thing, you know. So
They I do remember some other artists in the past that were a little bit catty, and I won't mention names, but we'd be coming on, they'd just come off the stage, and then, you know, I've had an artist say like, huh, follow that. And I think, wow, okay. That
yeah,
you know, to me that's a little insecurity, you know, but it's fun to get up there and see these, like when we do the package shows, the Lost 80s live thing that Rob Juarez has put together is an incredible family reunion. You know, the last several years that we've done this, and
yeah,
long before I started playing with you, right? I was doing a lot of Lost 80s shows with Animotion. And I felt like I developed a friendship with you guys long before I was ever in the band because I loved the music. I loved the iconic songs, right? I was roller skating to Flock songs when I was,
yeah,
you know, and Jen and I were, you know, going to dances, listening to Space Age and Wishing, you know, when we were in middle school. And, uh, but the energy that you guys had on stage was something that I would just, I couldn't not watch every night. We play together, you know, and it's just become this huge family that so many bands that we play with have now as much to catch up on backstage as we do to share with those fans out front. So the people that come out and travel and come to see us kind of get to witness us, you know, like meeting up as a family reunion. It's like a family camp out. You know, we
yeah.
start the tour. We've started in Detroit the last couple of years, and the venue's gorgeous. And I just think about all the hang that we do leading up to the show, you know, and it's kind of like seeing, you know, your long lost, I want to say your long lost brother. That works better for some people than others, so I won't say that. But um, the one thing that I notice in these shows is that there's always going to be a certain amount of fan of A Flock of Seagulls that's going to be hesitant, maybe a little guarded, because the original members are not all there. And I know you've had to answer those questions a million times. I get asked that stuff quite a bit. You know, they'll say, sometimes I get mistaken for the original drummer, your brother,
Right.
which
I wonder how.
well, I think Allie's, you know, 60s right now, right? And I know I'm a little weathered, you know, but I think, but you know, it should be honored. Either way, when people come to me with those questions, you know, so yeah, you know what, it's just not the same seeing it without the original members. They say that before they come and see the band. And for me, I like kind of trying to win them over, you know.
The thing is, uh, most of them would never have been old enough to see the original band anyway, right?
Right. Yeah. But we do get to
And
see three generations at these shows now, you know.
yeah, it's not, that's quite amazing, you know,
I
and it's great. I never expected anything like that. But, you know, as I've said to you before about the original band is, for me, the original band ran its course.
Yeah.
And back to that thing about friends and the band and all that. And when, you know, when you spend so much time in each other's pockets like that, and it's very intense, at some point after a tour, really all you want to do is get away from each other,
Sure.
you know, because I'm sick of the way that somebody's always the last on the bus. You know,
Right.
somebody is always like got the last Coca-Cola, whatever. You know, all that kind of stuff. You know, it gets on your nerves after you've been on tour for like 10 months or 12 months or something.
Sure.
You want to get away, and finally, you know, you can break your friendship, and you might have to not see each other for 10 years, and then you can become friends again. But that doesn't mean, for me anyway, that you want to go back
Yeah.
and be the band again. To me, there's always been more to to experiment for, to look for other people to play with, you know, to play different styles well, let's just go, let's say my brother drumming, you know, there's different drummers that have different timing, and suddenly that makes you think of a different song and a different way of putting it over. All that kind of stuff to me means I don't want to go back. I don't want to go back to the original band. I don't want to see a girl I used to go out with 20 years ago. I don't, you know, I'm always wanting to move forward into something.
Sure.
I don't mind going back for a touch of nostalgia now and then, which is why I did the orchestral album with the original guys.
Yeah.
But, you know, as soon as I did that, everyone was like, does that mean the original band are getting back together? Right. And it was like, no, it just means that in a way we're all still friends, you know, not like we were when we started the band, but we wrote those songs together, and this new orchestral album is coming out and we all did it. So why don't we all do the orchestral, and then we go back doing our own things. Imagine if you met an old girlfriend on the street and somebody went, does that mean you guys are back together forever?
Right.
You go, no, we just met on the street. And then, you know, she went off to do her own thing and I went off to do my thing. And it was nice. And we talked, and now I move on to where I want to be.
It really is about the relationships. Yeah. And what you've done with them. I as far as the orchestral album goes, man, I think it's incredible. I really do. Everybody that I've played it for it's got the spirit of the songs, but they're remastered, remixed, re-recorded with the Prague Symphonic Orchestra, right?
Yeah.
So it's epic, massive, and it's great driving music, you know?
To me, it was unexpected that anyone would ever ask with our music to do that. So it was quite almost like a adventure in technology, the way we did it as well, because although we talked, we didn't actually get together to do it. We all did it separately. And then, you know, a producer put it all together, which was, hey, if they can do that like that, you can make any album like that, you know?
Right.
And I'm sure that now this stuff like what we're on right now is going to help people to write, like, let's say this pandemic went on for a year. Well, I could get hold of you and go, look, here's this beat, this thing I've got, throw me some drums down, and then I'll program or whatever what you did, or we'll find a way to, you send me the files, you know, and then suddenly we're all playing together thousands of miles apart.
Yeah, if that's the closest we can get, then I'll take it for a short bit, but I can't wait to get on stage.
Right.
You know,
no, but a way of like staying in touch and playing and being with your band guys.
Yeah.
Like this talking, you know, except playing, which I'm sure I know there's been concerts already, none of them which I've watched, that are done like this, because I don't think that unless you've got a fabulous PA system in your bedroom, you're not going to hear it, right? Are you? Yeah. You're going to hear it through the bill speakers, you know. Yeah. And part of the great thing about playing live is the power of the music, you know.
Yeah, the screaming guitars,
thudding drums, you know, the fabulous vocals.
That's it. Well, I only bring up the screaming guitars because we have a guest that joined us here. We've got Gord Depp that popped into the interview here.
Oh, really? Hey, Gord.
How you doing, Gord?
Good. Can you see me?
Yep, I can see it.
Am I late for sound check again?
Oh, there you are. Yeah.
I'm late for sound check again. What did I miss?
Yeah, well, you
quite late.
Here, cheers, Gordon.
Miss you guys.
Absolutely.
What's in yours?
I have Good Earth tea.
Yeah, I'm drinking lots of espressos lately.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He's got the Vimto.
It's so good to see Mike again. I've seen you a few times, but it's the first time I've seen Mike since this whole thing started.
Yeah. I think since then I've had twins, Gordy.
Two mini me's, yeah.
I'm 4 months along.
Mike, see, I want to take that sitar down from the wall and try it.
Yeah. You can try.
Are you going through like your psychedelic phase like the Beatles did? Remember when they went?
I went through it, and 5 seconds later, I was completely through it.
Gord, you didn't know it, but actually Mike picked that up for the second half of our set coming up this summer. So,
oh, really?
Yeah, get your chops together. That's going to be the man-made solo.
Yeah, I ran to Bali.
Sitar solos from now on.
That's right. Yeah. George Harrison laid it down for us. But man, Gord, we had just been talking about sort of overcoming those that, or at least sort of disarming some of those people that come out expecting to see the original members. And for
Yeah.
me, when I first started playing with a band, I got a lot of that.
Sure.
It's kind of like, we've all been married and not married in the past, right? And so people are protective of the other person in the relationship, and then they come
Yeah.
back. And in a perfect world, people should be able to be friends with you and your ex equally without any kind of disparagement. And for me, I hold so much reverence to the original members of the band and the songs and the way they were, that I love being able to go out. I'm proud to go out there and play this music
Sure.
and lend whatever I can to it without distracting from it, and disarming those fans that can come out and say, wow, you know what? It's nice to see somebody pay homage to the music in the right way and see you guys really having fun.
Yeah.
How about for you? Has it been an easy transition, or has it been tough?
No, I haven't had anybody like attack me or anything or throw things at me. No, but I know that's out there. We have the same thing with the Spoons. We have two members that left in '86, and some people still expect them to be there.
Yeah.
That never changes, right? But I know when we played Liverpool last year, I mean, there's a good example. How close can you get to your home base, right? But I remember before the show, walking back from soundcheck, or maybe it was after the show, I don't know. We met this guy in the alleyway, and he was a good friend of Paul, the original guitar player. So, oh, here we go. And he said how great we were.
Yeah.
He said, I'm missing the old band, but you guys were great. I said, okay, Paul. We got that in Liverpool, so we're good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the place you have to win them over, right? Because they're pretty tough fans there, those Liverpoolians.
Yeah. And the thing is, I do respect what Paul did and what the original sound of the band is. I totally love it. I treat it like it's my own music. I love those parts, and they were genius. So I'll do whatever it takes to make the old people, come over to my side eventually.
The old people, be careful what you say about this.
The old fans, I mean.
Yeah,
The originals.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask a couple of questions to Mike real quick, Gord, because
It's Mike's interview. I'll get out of here. I'll leave you alone.
Well, actually, before I get into these questions, I just asked Mike about reflecting, because one thing that I'm really trying to do is stay present in everything. The rest of the world is out of control. I can't control the pandemic or what all happens, but I have done self-reflection. I've looked at the things that I really loved this last year, the Quebec City gig and Toronto Bud Stage, and playing the Cavern Club in Liverpool was unbelievable. And that entire run in the UK, for people outside the band, they may not have realized how the wheels could have come off the bus pretty fast the first night of that tour. And Mike, you just took the reins.
It didn't have any wheels.
Yeah, it showed up and they were already on axles. That's right. But
Yeah.
but you changed gears in the matter of a couple of hours and made the entire tour happen. And I remember the next morning after that first show, Gord, you and me and Pondo were over at the train station looking at each other, like honestly, like flipping coins to see who thought this thing was going to pull it off, But it ended up being an incredible tour, man. Those shows in London and Camden, and up in Glasgow and Scotland, and I pictured it being like the early days for you guys playing the smaller clubs, starting to break again, where real rabid fans were there. People were there with stacks of albums to have you sign them, and they it didn't get stalker or anything like that, I don't think, but I think it was the energy was right, and those were great memories for me last year.
That was a great little tour. I loved it. Loved every part of it.
Yeah.
I loved playing at the Cavern.
God.
Not just because of the Beatles thing, but I used to go to the Cavern when I was a kid, when I was 15, 16. I'd go hang out at the Cavern. And so to actually go play there, it was, to me, it was like, wow. It's like I used to see the bands up there and go, wow, I want to be in a band one day. And then suddenly, 35 years later, I'm the band playing up on the stage. Maybe some kids out there were going, wow, I want to be up there one day,
Yeah.
It was great. Everyone. And I thought, although, it was a bit disjointed as a tour, the gigs themselves were awesome. We were great. We had a great time. I did anyway.
I did too.
Yeah.
How about you, Gord? Anything that stood out last year for you?
Well, same shows you guys, the Greek, for sure, Greek theater. I always liked the Mountain Winery. What a great venue that is. If the fans aren't dropping off the Cliff Road after the gig, like they did the year before.
Yeah,
it looks like in the middle of Tuscany, up in this vineyard, and this amphitheater, beautiful place. And the Vegas shows are just crazy, right? I think
Right.
isn't it, aren't these like the biggest AD shows ever done in Vegas, I think?
Could be.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, the first year was like 18 bands over 8 hours, or there were people passed out by the time we came on at the end.
And that was just the bands.
Yeah, well, they start playing at noon and drinking, and it's 115 degrees. You know, it's
That's the way it should.
There was a swimming pool too, part of the, if you want to be in a pool and watching.
right.
It's ridiculous. It's so Vegas. It's great.
Yeah,
Only in America.
Yeah.
right. Yeah,
I like you're right about the British show, and that's when I like when Mike springs into action, because he's a pretty quiet guy. He, lets things slide. When something really needs to be done, there's, Mike puts on his cape, right, and he comes in. Like you said, we're standing at that train station. Is it over?
Yeah.
And he just walked up, hop in the van. We're going. We're doing
we're
this.
going. Yeah. Like,
I got a van. It changed
got a van.
overnight. Yeah.
The fat lady's singing, and I got a van.
that's right. Yeah, that's fun. Those things, for me, there'll be memories that we carry forward. I can't wait to do more of these. Even the European stuff, it'd be great.
Yeah.
I know we were booked again for Belgium, I think, in November. Yeah.
There was actually a few things starting to bubble under for Europe for us, and they, of course, they just got smashed by this, as everything has been.
Yeah.
But it'll come round again. It'll just take time. You just got to deal with this, another thing, another part of life, as they say.
We may just have to play twice as much next year.
Yeah. Just twice as loud.
We'll be missing this, right? Hey, Mike, we'll be missing this. I remember we could just lay in bed all day and not do anything. These would be the good old days, right?
These are the good old days. Yeah.
You'll be sick of us on the road, man. Can't we just go back to bed? No, I know we'll appreciate the hell out of being back on stage again, doing these gigs.
Or back in bed. I don't know.
Well, listen, hey, Gord, I am going to ask him a couple of these questions, because these were some deep-rooted Flock of Seagulls fans that asked some, and you don't have to leave. I'm just telling you.
I'll watch.
All right. Just like back in bed on the road.
Yeah.
Mike, this is Danet. He's from Israel.
Mm-hmm.
He says he really appreciates the posts that you do personally on the Flock of Seagulls social media site. So that's one thing that outside the question, it's great that you actually engage with the fans, both on social media, but even after shows. I noticed that you're out there signing autographs and meeting people and talking to people. It's a really cool thing that you get involved. So Danet wants to know, who's your favorite author and why?
I don't really read much anymore, but in the old days I used to like an author called Mordecai Rushwald, and he wrote books like Level 7 and very, very deep sci-fi books, but like I say, I don't really read that much anymore. It just takes too long.
Sure.
But I start reading and I go, I could be playing keyboards, I could be messing around the studio, even if I'm reading a music book, I go, oh, I should be doing something else, not just reading, so, but there were lots of obscure John Wyndham, Day of the Triffids and stuff like that. Used to really like that stuff. But now there's movies that do that stuff. Used to be imagination, but now you've got incredible effects and stuff like AI and stuff like that. So, books, I'm sure books are still great, but I just don't have time for them.
Are sci-fi movies the go-to for you now, like books were?
Yeah,
cool.
Absolutely.
What's the last one you saw that kind of rocked your world?
Probably Prometheus or something like that.
Okay, cool. Right on.
Or what was the one after that? I like all that Predator, Alien, kind of thing. It's funny because I remember taking my daughter when she was about 6 to see Alien, and I was more scared than she was.
Oh. God, I was about 6, I think, too, when that came out.
Yeah,
that was traumatizing, but I love it. Dana actually asks if you're considered writing a book and extend some of your song lyrics to short stories.
I haven't really thought of it like that, no, but it's probably not a bad idea.
Yeah,
I do have a couple of movie ideas, but they're not sci-fi. They're just little stories in my head that one day I go, I'm going to jot this down and try and get somebody to write a screenplay to it or something like that. But again, I don't really have time to consider that as a main project. You know, I'm still, there's so much stuff in music, especially in synthesizers and technology, that's where I bury my head. Really, you know, it's like it's got to be the same for Gordy with guitar, because guitar effects and stuff are so intricate nowadays, and even, you know, drums and digital drumming and stuff like that. You know, people think because I play synths I know a lot about it, but to tell you the truth, I know nothing about anything. You know, I just mess around until something comes up that I like, and then okay, I'm going that way. You know, so it takes me a long time to really develop into like a song or something like that. Will spin around in my head for quite a long time before I have the guts to go, oh, that's how it is, you know.
Yeah.
And a book would take me 20 years to write, or a movie. So
you'd have to have some contributing writers to just kind of draw those ideas out of your head.
Yeah. Have to be something else to pull it out.
You know, because you've actually talked about some of the new songs and played Gordon. Oh, look at Gord's getting special treatment. He's getting drinks brought to him. Is that Meg? Meg, I'll take one. But you do have little song vignettes that it seems like that you've put together behind the lyrics in the older songs too. You know, you talked about like Remember David and a lot of songs that were very personal to you, both real and fiction, you know. Gord mentioned his songwriting the other day for Spoons, but he said he comes up with gibberish. He writes the melodies and he comes up with gibberish lyrics first. And sometimes they always stay gibberish. No, that's not what he said. They, but
develop into gibberish.
Right. Now, this is Gord. If you're on the call, then you get heckled. But but do you find, Mike, that you start kind of with a melody, or do you have song like concepts in terms of lyrics and a story first?
I don't know. I have no idea how to write songs, really. They come from somewhere and they land on me. That's all I can tell you.
Yeah.
I have a basic idea that I might have a line or two of a lyric, and then from nowhere, and when I was younger, I never used to believe this would happen. From nowhere, lyrics come and music comes. And once you've got a basic structure, it's just a jigsaw. You know, it's just, I've got a piece of guitar that will fit there. You push it in, and then you go, oh, and if I change the tuning of that, it will fit over here. Oh, and then you kind of go, oh, in fact, you know what, that's a completely different song. So they start to develop themselves. And whenever I get a long way into a song, I do get the feeling of who wrote this? Did the song write itself? And I was just there at the time. Because I don't remember on a lot of songs actually writing the song to the finish. I remember starting it and then it writes itself. Wow. And then for some reason you're involved at the end when you write your name and say, oh yeah, I wrote this. Yeah. As they call it the Akashic record, where I'm sure you've heard of other musicians that say, I don't know, I just reached out and there it was.
Right.
And I can understand that now. I never used to understand it. I used to go, that's a load of bullshit. You know, you sat down and wrote it with your guitar, but in the end, the songs will write themselves and you're just a conduit for that song to come out.
I would imagine that that's maturity in your songwriting too, right? That you kind of open up a part of your brain that allows that to happen.
But it probably is, but to me, it's like I say, it's I can be sitting there 1 minute with no song. And then for some reason, I put my hand on the guitar or the keyboard or something. And 2 minutes later, there's a part of a song there. And I don't know really where it came from or how I got that lyric with that chord or whatever. I don't know how it works. I just know it works.
How about early days? When you
Is it like that for you, Gordy? Or do you sit down and go, I'm going to write a song?
Well, whatever bounces off you and you don't use, I take it. No, you're absolutely right. I'm not a structured writer either. I let it sort of come. And that, when I say singing gibberish, same thing. The lyrics should have sort of come from somewhere else. And I think if I force it too much or try to write a song, it doesn't work.
Right.
It doesn't work.
No, it doesn't. It just starts to feel false, you know. So,
yeah.
And I've written a lot of bits of songs that are 2 minutes long, and I don't think they'll ever be finished songs because there's nowhere left for them to go. You know, so you just have to kind of go, well, okay, that's enough of that. It'll write itself next year or whatever.
You could probably sell those bits. They're probably worth a lot to young bands.
Right.
Sell Michael's bits.
Maybe, yeah.
Here's a collection of Michael's bits.
Yep. As a song library, you can just like sell them as a pack. You know, how about the earlier songs? When you were putting together the first record, Telly was the first single. Is that right?
It's not me talking, I think.
Okay.
Was done as a more independent than that, yeah.
Okay.
I think so. I can't remember. It's, you know.
When you were writing those, was there like, you know, did the song stick out to you so much that you thought, oh man, this is the one, right? This is the you know, Stairway to Heaven. This is our Bohemian Rhapsody.
Well, let's take a look at Iran, you know.
Yeah.
That idea came up. I got the idea for the lyrics, threw some lyrics down. We rehearsed it for a couple of nights, thought it sounded great, recorded it on a cassette, shoved it away and never played it again. When we went to the record company to get a deal and they heard that song, they went, that's the song that's going to be your big hit.
Wow.
And to me, it was like, hang on, what about Space Age?
Yeah.
What about, Standing in the Doorway and stuff like that, which was, for me, more about that's where we were as a band.
Yeah.
But I think, record companies look at it as like soap powder and they go, well, we can sell more of this kind of a song than what you think you can of that.
Sure.
So they were right, but for us, I don't particularly think it was our best song at all.
Sure.
But when I did Wishing, I knew that was the best song.
Yeah.
I knew it was the best song I'd ever written. And I expected it because I did the demo on my own, took it to the record company on my own. And then they said, that's a great song and it's going to be a hit. As far as I remember, the rest of the band were just like, it doesn't sound like Iran, so it's no good.
Wow.
So, but I had the feeling when I wrote that song, I don't know, like I said, where it really came from, because I'd had that riff for quite a while. And then when I just sat down one day and finished it, or it wrote itself out, as soon as I heard the finished song, I went, this is the best thing I've ever done, and
Brilliant
song.
song.
To me, it proved to be,
Do you still have demos of those original songs?
You
do.
Somewhere.
No kidding. Wow. That'd be great to hear, like the original version, the raw tracks of Wishing, to see how they evolved, in the recording.
Yeah, I think it was last year, I actually found the demo of Wishing and I played it and I went, oh, it was awesome. Should have put it out like that.
Yeah. Like a B-side somewhere, in the future.
Maybe just a demos album, for some odd reason, like the anthology style thing,
You've got a lot of fans that would love that. People, I see people clamoring for obscure stuff like that all the time. People trying to find, hard to find records. And, speaking of Wishing, a couple of years ago, we played the Genesee Theater outside of Chicago, and we were on that gig with Survivor and John Waite. I remember talking to John Waite backstage, and he said, "Hey, man, I got to ask you, you're doing Wishing, right?" I said, yeah, of course. And he goes, "Man, that is the greatest song of the 80s. And it was cool for him to say that, right? I mean, because he's a great songwriter, man. And it's not like the guy is a slouch and has no hits, but it's neat to hear other people recognize the beauty of those songs. As a fan of your stuff, Wishing and Space Age were always the ones that I gravitated towards as well. But songs like More You Live and Telly, I wasn't as familiar with Flock of Seagulls playing them. I heard the songs, I just knew them from my youth, right? And so when I'd start to see you guys do it live, it just felt extra special to be doing them. The way that we've evolved with telecommunication live this last year is amazing to me. I get goosebumps because you bring the dynamics way, way, way down. You're kind of vamping with the crowd. You've got Gord, just ripping little funky guitar thing and
ripping his nails out.
Right. I think it takes a different turn in a set. You know, there's a dynamic.
Yeah, it's a great song just to jam out and go anywhere with. It'll the song itself, I think, will handle anything. You know, anything you can change on it, throw at it, and then come back to it. It always seems to work.
The reggae remix.
Yeah, the reggae breaks and stuff. It works. But some songs are just like that, I guess. You know, I didn't play in cover bands or anything, so I never. Yeah, I think when you're playing a cover band, you learn songs a different way.
Yeah.
You know, you try to do it the original way, whereas I would always try and do my own thing that was different to anyone else if I could. And so I never really think about, say, in a song going to reggae or something like that. You know, I always just think it should be Seagulls.
Yeah.
Seagulls. The Seagulls way is the only way, you know. So.
Seagull style. Are there any new bands that? Sorry, pardon me. Trying to decline a call. Any new bands that are out there right now that you're liking that are sort of breaking on the scene?
Nothing that I have seen or listened to. But then again, you know, I'm not. I don't really go out there to find out what's new. Yeah. You know, I'm more introverted about what I want to do, and I've even said to people, I'd rather do what I do if it's the most old-fashioned thing in the world, but it's me. Then I'd rather do that than listen to new bands and go, oh, I can do a bit of that myself. Yeah. You know, I'm not into that at all. Yeah, I think it's great that they'll do their own thing, but I'm not interested.
Well, I know there are bands that you've appreciated a lot. Maybe you didn't derive influence from, but I know Keen was a band that you were listening to a bunch when we were on the road. Mm-hmm. Just stylistically, they had such a diversity in their music, and guy's a great singer.
And emotionally too, you know, so emotional that's
right. You had,
I think, but see, I don't call them a new band now. They're what? No. They're like 10, 12, 15 years old now, you know, and
sure.
And I actually did see a TV thing about them, and that was their pinnacle, and his voice was right, and the songwriting was perfect. And I saw them doing something, and since he's grown up a bit and his voice has changed, to me now it doesn't all fit together right. Really? You know, so I think like all bands, you know, you have a peak and then you spin away from it. And that takes us back to having different people in the band and stuff like that, you know.
Right.
Keen had their peak. We had our peak with the original guys. I write differently now to what I did then. I don't feel like I'm the same person.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to write any more songs like I Ran or, you know, Space Age or stuff like that. They'll always have a core of me, but it won't be the same.
Yeah. I think the new songs that we're playing, you know, seem well received from fans. You know, it's nice to see that there has been an evolution. You know, we're doing, you know, She Won't Let You Down or Naked or any of those songs. I think people appreciate the fact that there's a change in the music, but it is still you and your sound more guitar driven now.
Yeah, and because of my voice and the guitar sound we like to use and the keyboard sounds, it's got a Seagulls core, but it's not the same. I could say emotional output or the same vibe.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, those songs are written in an attic in Liverpool when we were poor, if you know what I mean. We were just enjoying doing it. And these days, you know, now we have studios at home. And we have good keyboards and great guitar things and good microphones and stuff. So the whole vibe is different, you know. So
tell me about that vibe, about being a teenager in Liverpool, writing these songs in sort of a blue collar city, just rough and tumble, where music was you're out. Right?
It was worse then than when you saw it.
Yeah. I'm sure.
Writing then was a case of I had one little keyboard. Basically, I would come up with some kind of little riff I could sing over. My brother would throw a beat behind it. And from that, it would then be, okay, this is the verse. Let's go to that for the chorus. And let's do that 3 times. And then we'd play that because just the pleasure of getting a little thing together like that. We'd play that for hours on end. And then you'd think about it for a day or two and go, no, like right there, we should change something. So those songs evolved over time. And we used to have this thing where we'd say, if you make a mistake, it could be the best thing that could happen to this song.
Yeah.
Because when you made that mistake, it changed that part of the song into the lead break. Or like when my brother would change the beat because he was getting tired, and you'd go, oh, that was brilliant. Now we can, if you can do that again, we can come around this way instead of going that way, you know?
Those
A
happy
lot of things.
accidents.
Huh?
They call them happy accidents, right?
Yeah, and we used to say, if you're going to make have an accident, have a bad one,
Yeah.
so we can all hear it. Then you're not going to hide it, you know.
Right.
Instead of just going, oh, what was that? You go, oh, that was fucking horrible or brilliant, you know.
See, Gord, you get a pass.
Thought contributing every night.
Walking on stage is an accident.
Yeah.
I've had a couple. Sorry. Were you guys listen? Were you and Ali listening to a lot of the same music then, inspired by a lot of same stylistic music?
No, not at all.
Were you going to concerts? You were really young, right? Were you seeing any live bands?
We used to do this trade-off thing, whereas I would say I would be listening to Yes, and Ali would hate Yes. He'd like Status Quo or something like that, and we would say, okay, look, if you go see Yes with me, I'll go see Status Quo with you. And the funny thing was, it was like, I hate Status Quo. I went to see them. They were brilliant.
Wow.
You know, their stage show, their sound, it was brilliant. Ali went to see Yes with me at Wembley, and he was blown away by the fact that they could play that stuff, and the fact that the show that they put on with lasers, and it was just like, wow, you know. So you learn a lot by opening up, if you know what I mean, not just saying, hey, you know, because Status Quo were basically 12-bar blues kind of stuff. And to me, that was like, oh, yeah, one song's great, you know, Pictures of Matchstick, that's brilliant. But then we both got into the same stuff like Alice Cooper, you know, and that led us in a way to, or led me anyway, to wanting to have a real strong image.
Yeah.
You know, seeing us go see David Bowie and seeing Alice Cooper and the heavy metal kids and stuff like that, you know, just had just a brilliant look. Yeah. And I kind of realized that they're getting somewhere, not just because the songs are great, but because when they take the stage, people go, wow, look at that, you know, look at the show, look at the guy, look at the way he's dressed, look at the lights, everything. And that's what I wanted to be. I wanted to be a space boy, you know.
The Space Boy, which is one of the new songs you're writing right now.
Yeah, and I'm writing the Space Boy album, but it's, you know, it's going to write itself, so it's not being rushed along. Put it that way. I
just saw that Nuno here wanted to know if you were influenced by Kraftwerk.
A little bit.
Okay.
I wouldn't say I'm a great Kraftwerk fan, but I liked, you know, when we used to go clubbing it in Liverpool, there's a lot of Kraftwerk on.
Okay.
Great to hear it loud, and it was technology at its best at the time, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say they were an influence, but not an influence in a heavy way, just like an edgy kind of, you know.
Tell me. So speaking of influences, I've been looking at some of these these photos over the years of your style and your image. Tell me about this era. Where was this?
That was, I think it was like 84 or something like that.
Okay.
So. I think that was a little bit of maybe mixing a bit of Brian Ferry with some glam rock.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, with the hair.
Yeah, little Bowie outfit.
Yeah, a little bit of Bowie and a little bit of glam rock with the hair. The thing is, I did the, you know, the wings on the hair and the big front part, and I wanted to not get tired of that, not just use it constantly.
Sure.
So I grew it out and went that way. It's something I used to think about a lot, was how could I look next? How could I do this? How could I do that? You know?
Right. Yeah. This one, you had less crimping in the hair, but you're it's like you got a private plane happening here.
Oh yeah, my old private jet.
You and I think that's Ali in the foreground, right?
Yeah.
And Paul trying to step on the step stool off the plane there.
He's not wearing a Mike t-shirt, is he?
No,
This is
Doesn't
Mike. I was like, well, he's wearing a Mike
everybody-
t-shirt.
I love these old pictures of the style, the transitions of styles, you know. So we just going through the different hairstyles. I mean, the image thing was a big deal. And that's
Yeah,
another, it's another question that you have to field all the time, right? When we're doing these shows, people will say, "Where's the hair?" And your answer is always,
it's all over the world.
yeah.
Fell out here, fell out there, you know.
I found there's some video of you at Disney last year where you said, "Yeah, it's backstage somewhere. I left it backstage."
Yeah.
But,
In a box.
this looks like the US Festival era right here. This is just tank tops. Got a little bit more of a punk vibe going on.
Yeah. Well, you know, really, when we started, I guess we were, you know, there was no such thing as new wave.
Right.
I think we were a synth punk band when we started. We didn't know how to play, so we just made a lot of noise, you know. I don't think we were ever a new wave band, really. We're just a new rock band, you know.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people that come out to shows have said they really felt like you were seminal in creating the new wave genre, you know. I mean, Depeche Mode had been around for just a tiny bit, right? But that genre changed completely, right? I mean, you went from like the punk scene directly into new wave, and you were riding that crest.
I think what happened there was, I think really new wave was bands like ABC. They were smart. They were smart, stylish, influenced by, you know, the 60s and stuff like that. We weren't. We were just throwing it all together. Like I say, I think we were more like a synth punk band. But because we had a certain style, I think people, especially in America, went, "Oh, look, these guys look cool as well. So there must be new wave." You know, I mean, at one time, I think when there wasn't many new wave bands around, they wanted us. We became like a favorite of the new wave band because there wasn't really punk anymore.
Excuse me. Sorry.
You know, there wasn't really punk. So we were still getting stronger. So they were like, well, they're not punk, they're new wave, because they're like, now they're coming up even higher, you know. So we kind of got lumped in a bit with new wave, which is all right.
Yeah.
We all do, and we're on a wave. So
yeah, well, it allowed you probably to tour with a lot of those bands at that point too, you know, to be real successful in a package tour. I mean,
yeah,
Go-Go's were pop, they weren't new wave, but you know.
Yeah, but I think that our way of doing things was new. So in that way, we were new wave. We had synths and guitars, which America loved, you know, because they loved their guitar heroes, and the more modern ones loved the synth sound. So we had all of that. Whereas a lot of bands would go, "We're not having synths," and other bands, "We're not having guitars."
Right.
So we said we want it all. We were greedy.
Not setting limits is a really cool thing. That probably allowed you a lot more flexibility.
Yeah, we could rock and we could be bit bobbity synthy, you know, as well. So, and another thing was that I think my singing, I sang like myself, not trying to sing like somebody else.
Sure.
You know, trying to be a rocker and sing or like Bowie or anything. I just sang the way my voice is, and I think that got us a long way too, because people went, it's a different way of singing or a different sound, you know.
Well, the authenticity showed through, right? They could see that there's the sincerity. This is an authentic sound. This is not a band that's trying to emulate. Which I
helped with the originality thing.
Yeah. You had the sound. You certainly had the style. It's been incredible for me. I know, Gord, you know, you and I talk about this a lot. There are a lot of pinch me moments, right, where we get to go out and play our favorite songs with our bud. And
actually, you've literally pitched me a few times on stage.
Yeah, and I will continue.
I didn't want to mention that.
Well,
so has Londo, but
I'll do it with
conversation is slipping away.
Yeah.
Pandemic's going to do really bad things for the pinches and the hugs. I'm telling you. Yeah. And so when we go back on stage and we wear masks, this will be part of our new image, right? And so we'll have a new.
We'll be a new fluff band, right?
Right. Yeah. Can you get some space helmets, since you get the space theme? Can we get some space helmets for the coronavirus protection? And because
somebody ought to invent one, right?
yeah,
It's just, you walk around in every day. We'd all be spacemen. It would be great.
I love it. I love it. Man, so you well, you'll have to let us know how the recording stuff goes. I know the record that you were playing for us that you'd worked on in LA. Some of those songs are so exciting, man. Kashmir, oh my God, that song is huge.
Yeah,
You know, so but I think by the time we all four get on stage, as everybody knows, Pondo doesn't like to come on social sites. Otherwise, I would have tried to have him jump in here too. But he's the man of mystery. But this is as close as the group can get together on stage for some time. You know, so
Yeah.
yeah. You have anywhere that you can point people, Mike, to your newest releases?
Not really, because I'm not putting them up online or anything like that. I'm not actually in a rush to put it out.
Yeah.
I just want to be happy with it. I always just write them for myself, and at some point I have a day where I go, okay, these should go out. In fact, even like Kashmir now, I still think it's great. I think it's one of the best things I've done, but I've moved on from that, and the songs that I'm doing now to me are like, oh, Kashmir can stay in the can. I'll do these.
Do
So,
you open up the windows in the studio and have all your neighbors in Liverpool check out the new stuff?
no, they'll rip me off.
Yeah.
A lot of bands in Liverpool. Watch out.
Yeah, that's true.
I promised to send Gordy some new stuff that he can lay
I
some
want to
guitar.
learn. Yeah.
But I haven't gotten around to it yet, because I keep like jumping back to them and listening to them, and then I go, okay, I'll try a bit of guitar. If not, I'll send it to Gordy. So I've got about 4 I can send you, and you just throw some ideas on. We'll see where it goes.
I got some spare time.
Yeah.
I thought you were on tour with the Spoons all the time.
Oh yeah.
Only on Facebook.
Yeah, Facebook Spoons.
Mike's already got the drums pretty much dialed in. He's got the kit right behind him, and he's been practicing. So my gig is almost gone. But
You're out.
But Mike, if you do get stuck, you're just bored and needed to fill some spot. Send me some tracks, man. I'll throw you some drums from here.
Yeah, it'll happen. I'll get you some.
I can't.
I got to get Gordy these couple of tracks, 2 or 3 tracks, so he can throw some stuff down, and then I'll take it and work it if I can.
You can shred.
But I'm doing a lot of writing just lately, so it's one thing just gets pushed away after the other. So,
yeah, man, well, I'm glad to see that you're healthy. I'm proud of you for taking care of yourself, staying inside. No, man, I mean, it's a scary time right now. I know that, the UK got hit pretty dang hard, and I'm glad that you're taking it seriously and staying inside and keeping yourself out of trouble. You're not.
Well, because I'm diabetic, they basically said you're not going out at all.
Yeah.
So that was it for me. I'm like, okay, I'll just stay in. I didn't think it would last this long before I could come back to America, but I'm quite happy, staying in England.
Well, you can stay in England until we can get gigs, and let's go play some shows.
Yeah.
Al Judd just asked me to ask you about having the Fix open up for A Flock of Seagulls. He said the Fix credits A Flock of Seagulls with breaking the Fix in the U.S. Major props.
Well, I don't know if we broke them, because they were brilliant. They were on tour with us, and every night was like, those fuckers are so good, And I think their album was, I don't know, 1 or 2 spots behind ours at the time, and every night it was like, fuck them.
You're trying to sabotage their stage show.
But they were great. We loved them. We loved listening to them. We loved watching them, but we hated them for being so good at the time.
Yeah.
And as that proved with their songs, they went on huge hits and stuff like that. And
sure.
I'm glad to see they're still going. And yeah, it'd be great, wouldn't it? Do a tour with the Fix.
It really would be a good pairing, I think. Yeah. We'll make that happen. If
tell Al, tell them hello.
Okay, Al. There you go. Awesome.
I do a tour with Wayne Newton about right now.
Yeah.
Anything would be good.
He was my first ever web client. Wayne Newton was.
Wayne Newton? All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
The kingoflasvegas.com was my first commercial website. So no longer there. But I guess I'm glad that both of you guys are here, because I miss the hell out of you both, man. It feels like we spent so much time together the last few years, and this last year, to me, man, we started just gelling so hard on stage.
Yeah.
It felt so good. And it's,
And then it was just snatched away, wasn't it?
It's true. But the relationship strengthened, you know, the bond between us all. I think we just really started like getting used to each other in and on and off stage. And to me, you know, we talk about the relationship analogy of it being like a marriage, a four-way marriage, you know, I missed sex. I mean, the stage to me is like this great sex, man. And
you can see the Gordy misses it as well.
I'm staying quiet on this one.
Yeah, man. No, really, but to me, that's the fulfilling part when we're on stage and we're rocking together. That's as intimate as it can get. So let's make this pandemic retire and let's get back out there. And I'm just excited to see your faces, man. You know, Mike,
likewise.
Mike, even yours, Mike.
I didn't even like to see that.
Oh man, no, I thought for sure we were going to see a huge pandemic beard on Mike, and maybe the hair was going to grow back. You know,
3 hairs on the top and stuff.
Yeah. Gord still looks like he's like 16. That's just not.
No, you know what? Isn't there word that maybe Europe will open up earlier? You know, like there's some countries in Europe like Sweden and you know, Switzerland. Maybe you can start touring there. You know.
Well, you know, they were on it before us. That was the whole deal with them. They took steps before a lot of like France and Italy ever did, you know. And don't forget, like Sweden, there's only about 5 million people, whereas like in England, there's 60 million. So, you know, so for them, it wasn't such a big thing to go, oh, just stay at home for a couple of, you know. Whereas in England, everyone's partying and going to the pub and stuff like that, you know. And it was like, we can't do it.
I would imagine even if they did try to set up dates for us to come over to parts of Europe, there'd have to be the quarantine time, right? They don't want people
2 weeks before you can play.
Yeah. So we're over there camped out, you know, at Mike's house. I think Cena would get really sick of us.
Plenty of room.
We got to get those Seagulls helmets, like you said. The Seagulls space helmets and hazmat suits and go look like Devo or something. We could do that.
We could all wear like white rubber gloves and taped up mic'd up inside helmets and stuff like that. That would be cool, actually.
Yeah, man. Well, work on that. Claudia's probably watching and she's all over that kind of stuff. So maybe Claudia can help us out. She's over in Bonn, Germany. She'll meet us there and get us some space helmets.
Space helmet.
Well, listen,
we can be space boys.
Yeah, man.
I always wanted to be a spaceman, and now is my time. Right?
It's the time, man. Who would have thought it'd be a global pandemic that would to bring you to your future?
It's funny. Mike's got the same fascination for science fiction that I did growing up. You know, for books and movies. And this feels like we're living in a science fiction movie, doesn't it?
Isn't that weird? That you watch the movies about this, and now we're in one.
Yeah, this is the worst.
It's like almost next week, maybe the zombies will come, you know?
Right? Yeah, couldn't you have like comedies instead, Mike? Come on, you should have like Party Boys or comedy books or something. That's it.
Benny Hill.
Benny Hill. Yeah.
Man,
we'll all be zombies next week. I'm telling you.
That's right. Well, Mike, I know it's really, really late there, and I just wanted to thank you for taking some time, buddy. If this is the way that I get to see you, then I'll take it. And Gord, man, nice to see your smiling.
Yeah, too. Good to see you guys.
Let's do it again.
What do you go? You're 3 hours, and Kevin, you're 8 hours. Is it 7 hours?
I'm 8 hours behind you.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Bedtime for you.
Yeah, I'm long gone. I'm usually in bed at 8 o'clock.
Right on. Well, I hope we didn't keep seeing it up. But awesome. All right, you guys. Well,
all right.
Work on your sitar.
See you soon.
Bye. All right, gentlemen. Have a beautiful
day. Get on your sitar lessons, Gordy.
Send those songs over.
All right,
guys. I'll see you at sound check, guys.
See you.
All right. See you later. Bye.
Take care.